Good morning. Good afternoon. I always say that. We are live here at the studio for the Rabell Realty Group podcast and Facebook Live. So thanks for joining us once again on this beautiful, absolutely gorgeous Monday.
Beautiful
I
weather.
am Kristen Rabell and
I'm Rebecca Johnson. Thanks
my
for tuning
ride or
in.
die sidekick. So we have a lot to talk about in terms of the market today. How the market's changing, how it's growing, how we're wow every day. Real estate has been such a wild ride since last year, and we are still in the thick of it. So we're going to talk a lot about that. And of course, as always, we're going to start with Rebecca's Monday market moment.
All right, so let's see what's happening in the three largest markets that we serve. The first up is Alachua County, and we're looking at the month of April, which is, I believe, 5 days in. So I pulled these numbers this morning, and let's see, there are 62 active homes still on the market from April 1st until today. Now, this also does not include homes that have been on the market, but if you look at what's happening with 59 pending already in the month of April, you kind of get an idea that there is definitely an inventory shortage, not just in our area, but across the country, or in most states, I should say. And then for April, you've already had 22 closings and counting. I know this morning people were coming in with checks. A lot of people were closed on Good Friday or they couldn't get what they needed. So I think you're going to see that number jump up pretty much, probably double. And then by the time we do this next week, so it's looking good, looking strong for April. If you've got a home in the Gainesville area that you're thinking about selling, or you're, just want an idea of what it might be valued at, give us a call, send us an email, drop a message in the comments below. Let us know. We'd be happy to talk with you.
So before you get into St. Augustine and Tampa, check that out. I know it's only day 5 of the month, but I think this is one of the first times that we're seeing more active listings than pended and then closed. So yay for April.
They
5
kind of
days
lost
in.
that day. And it might be actually because agents could still work over the weekend, but closing offices were closed. And I know we had one pinned over the weekend, and I just didn't do it till after I pulled these numbers, actually.
Yeah, a lot of times you're not doing things online for, over the weekend. You wait till Monday. So
yeah, and a lot of places have staff.
I just had to point that out. It's one of the first times.
Yay. So let's talk about St. Augustine, and we've got
Complete
customers
opposite.
over there, and they're we had somebody that just lost a bid. I mean, people are almost fist fighting in the streets for property over there. So
there's so few there in comparison.
If you've got a property over there that you're ready to sell, just call us directly. Don't even drop a comment, because I don't want somebody going to find it now. Call us. We'd be happy to help you out. But yeah, their market is very hot right now. So in the month of April, so far, they have 60 active new listings that have hit the market. 83 homes have pended.
Wow.
Which is
This
interesting.
is like the sales season for real over there by the beach.
Geographically, it's a smaller area than Gainesville.
But look at that.
So it's
Look at the 5 days. Yep.
And then only
The
2
numbers are higher.
closings, but they're just heading into their season. And as the weather's getting nicer, I think you're going to see it change substantially.
That number's going to burst.
It's going to go through the roof. And we've talked to agents over there. It's just very competitive right now.
Tampa,
and so our
your
largest
hometown,
market, which
right?
is Tampa Bay, which we're thinking about y'all today.
We'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah. You guys got some crazy stuff happening, but their active listings for the month of April, just over 1,000, but pending sales, almost 1,900. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
But
in 5
people are
days.
moving there at an alarming rate. They're coming up from South Florida. They're coming in from other parts of the country. I mean, they've got
The
a harbor. They've
international
got an
buyers
international
are-
airport.
yep.
They've got, I mean,
Are
it's
wild
really...
there.
It's set up for growth, and I know that the city had worked really hard for years back when they were trying to get the
this
Olympic
happen.
bid
to
make this happen with some beautification.
It's a beautiful
and adding
city,
parks.
beautiful area.
I think so.
I know Tampa Bay is so beautiful. So all of Tampa is just a great city that has a lot of life to it. Can't say the same for Orlando. No offense to Orlando, definitely not Miami, but Tampa. I mean, I think it's
Tampa's
like
beautiful.
probably the best big city in the state of Florida, truthfully.
I agree. Not biased at all. And then they've had around 1,500 closed sales. So there you go, 1,530 closed sales. And their market's just on fire. Everybody that we talk to down there, all buyers, sellers, realtors, everybody's experiencing it all over the state.
And Tampa's all over all of the lists of like best place to live, most properties available, even though it doesn't look like that. Hey, Becky. And then, just the fact that because it's a beautiful city near the water, on the water, you have just this great lifestyle. So it's getting a lot of awards for that as well. And then also like best places to go and invest. Tampa's always on the top. So
oh yeah, for sure. For sure. So that's a look at the 3 largest markets we serve. And if you've got questions on where you are specifically, we'd be happy to sit down and talk with you about that.
For sure. So, I mean, we have, you and I read a lot, especially, you'll start reading and send me, articles about what's happening, not just in Gainesville or our 3 markets, but all over. We have a few, but, I found this really cool map on a real estate website and really about the change. And this is what this is all about, the market right now, the change in the housing inventory compared to this time just last year. And, most of the states, it is down by 45% or more. And you could see that Georgia's the closest one to us, up to South Carolina, North Carolina. And a lot of that, you could say the central states across, the bigger, like Texas and Florida and California, are not really affected as much, but they're still affected, down by 30 to 45%. So this is really happening everywhere. The lack of inventory, which, we've talked a lot about how it's really affecting pricing and where pricing is going. So, look at that down in...
Sorry, it's in front of us. That's what we
Hawaii
keep
hasn't been affected quite as much. It's still affected though,
New York, I was looking at that. That obviously catches my eye I see that it's, lit up in yellow.
Now, when you hear about New York City, that you have a different story. I think the city's a little bit different. I've talked to a lot of people and they're saying, and I think we've talked about this before, but people aren't moving into the city. So right now it's like the investor haven, but you have to have money to have, to be an investor in New York. And when I say you have to have money, like real money, lots and lots of money, but not a lot of people are wanting to live in New York City, but that's not the same as the entire state.
Right.
But I do think it's yellow because the inventory is high right now in New York City based off of the information I'm reading.
It's probably affecting their entire...
Right, because that's where the most people are. So, yeah, crazy market.
For sure.
We talk all the time. I was just at church yesterday for Easter, and I saw an old friend who we've waved to each other as he's taking his daughter to, to ballet. And he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk to you. I haven't seen you in so long. How's the market? And I'm just like, it's insane.
Crazy.
It's absolutely crazy. And, you talk to people about, flipping or investing and really when is a good time for all of this. And it's kind of like, it's just one of those, we've talked about this, Victor was on not too long ago. If the numbers are right, any market can happen and any market could work.
You can make money in any market. You just have to double check your numbers.
And right now it's low inventory. So it's really hard to find these investments per se. But if you're looking at numbers all the time, you can find something and it might not be in the same place you're always looking. Maybe you're always looking in downtown Gainesville or Hale, and sometimes it's not there. Sometimes it's outside of, the city limits in other places. But right now, the reason why it's great to flip is because the prices are so high. So you have to be diligent about continuing to look and really knowledgeable about, quick way to look at numbers and be quick about it. Because like we said with our friend, our customer down in St. Augustine, they lost because there were so many offers on a piece of property. And right now, cash, as long as it's list price or higher, cash is always king. And people have a lot of cash and they'd rather use that.
There are a lot of cash offers coming in.
I'm noticing that a lot.
I'm seeing it on what we affectionately call kitty condos up here.
Right.
But even regular residential homes, they're still bringing cash in and doing that. I was looking at the map thinking, wow, some of the hotter states are ones with a lot of outdoor recreation or beautiful places to live. And I think COVID, I have been reading a lot of articles about how people are not wanting to go back into the office. So it'll be interesting to see how the culture of corporate America changes, if people will be going back, if they'll be taking pay reductions so that they don't have to go to the office all the time, because that was a big story. But they're wanting to live in more beautiful places and, where there's more activities. And I think Florida's gorgeous. I know some people don't like the heat, but I actually prefer it.
You know what's wild to me, though, is that all over the news, they're talking about everybody coming to Florida. We are an open state. Same with Texas. They are an open state as well. Tampa's like super high up in places to move to, as well as still Miami, Orlando, Jacksonville, Gainesville, the Panhandle. Texas, Austin is like just, I think, the number one place people
I
are,
sent you the
are
article
moving
about
to.
the real
Right.
estate people that are going to do a development.
But I'm also talking, I know, goals.
I know.
We're also talking about California, where, these huge cities, they're not actually moving out of them. They're just moving into different areas of them. Because I was reading all about San Francisco, and people are they're not necessarily having to stay in the city, but it doesn't mean that there aren't people still moving into San Francisco. So as people are moving out of San Francisco, people are moving in. So I almost wonder, without having looked up, Arizona, some of these, Colorado, some of these places, maybe there just aren't as many homes because the desert, the mountains.
Well, we know Tennessee, people are flocking to Tennessee.
Nashville area.
Because of the weather
Outside of
and all that,
Nashville.
because we've talked to people there. I mean, Arkansas is beautiful. You've got,
we're also talking about, yes, and not to cut you off, Georgia and South Carolina.
I don't know why. I think Georgia's a fluke. I read that people were moving to Atlanta because it was beautiful, and I'm like,
what?
Yeah, I know. I read that article. I was like,
hot Atlanta?
No. Sorry. I'm sorry, Georgia people.
No offense.
No.
Well, I love Georgia. Actually, it's a beautiful state. Their trees are absolutely gorgeous. And
Savannah's, that's pretty. But I'm like, they're moving to Atlanta because it's beautiful.
No, I would think the outskirts probably. Atlanta's not so pretty. But the weather there, yes, I call it hot Atlanta. It's not nearly as hot as Florida, but when it's hot, it's hot. And when it's cold, it's cold. So, you do have a little bit of the change in weather that we don't have here, or a lot of the change in weather. And maybe that's what it is.
It must be.
The people moving to Georgia don't want to go so far south into swampland, Florida. That's okay.
That's fine. Stay in your own state. We'll
But,
keep our
it is
state.
interesting to see what states are really affected. So you almost wonder why. I mean, are people flocking to Arizona, or is it that there aren't as many homes?
Yeah, Helen, Georgia is pretty. I don't know if I'd want to live there, but I'm like looking at Alaska.
I remember
I'm like, what's happening here? This is confusing.
In high school, my stepdad almost got a job in Georgia, and we all went, to go see where it was. And gosh, I thought Florida was, Gainesville was podunk. Back in the day it was. But man, the little town we were going to, that was so podunk. I was terrified. Thank goodness he decided not to move there.
Thank goodness. Georgia doesn't have enough coastline. Sorry. It's just the truth. Sometimes the truth hurts.
Our girl Sindal's from Georgia and loves it.
So. We love you, Sindal, but, we're glad you're in Florida now.
Well, we've got a lot more to talk about in terms of, we got to keep going. So we've got a lot of rising home prices.
Which we kind of have been talking about that.
Right. So do you want to read that text that you sent me? This is a great little read.
I'm not going to read it, but I'll give you the
go
gist
over
of
it.
So basically everybody was talking about the market and what they were seeing. And so I thought this guy's prediction was very interesting. And he's talking about inflation. Mm-hmm. So basically, where do you see the market in 6 months was the question. And everybody always jokes, let me get my crystal ball out. Because we
usually
don't
have
know.
a crystal ball. We should have brought it. We should bring it every time now.
We should. How will the market be? And ask it. So basically what he gets into is that if anybody tells you that they know where the market's going to be in 6 months, they're absolutely crazy because there's no way to know because you would never be able to predict something like COVID or the interest rates being where they are. And so he gets into inflation and basically talks about how municipal bonds will no longer enjoy their safe status and safe havens if inflation continues, which is why we're seeing the interest rates rise a little because they need to come up. They have to come up. So I know everybody's panicking that, they're over 4. Look, if you remember in the 80s, which I don't remember in the 80s, but
you were born
they were
in the 80s,
14
they were higher than that. When my parents bought a house in probably 2 years after you were born, 84. Yeah, University Acres here in Gainesville.
Stop dating me.
Sorry, that's true. Oh, you're
the
so
80s
young,
were
though.
20 years ago.
I know, my goodness. Wow. Madonna, the 80s. Cyndi Lauper. Anyways, they could not buy because they were, You have a psychic on. There we go. They were in the 20s. Like, it was like 23%.
I know, but we're all spoiled because, I mean, as soon as they drop below
we had
6,
this conversation in like 06, 07 when they were at 6s and everybody was like losing their mind because it was so low. And here we are.
And now it's like
rising
practically
from,
free.
There's the only way you can go is up at this point. They're going to possibly dip a little again back down to the 3s.
But they need to go back up because otherwise we're going to see hyperinflation.
We're not going to be able to keep up with this. Right.
So then he gets into his spiel, and I'll actually go ahead and I'll source it and I'll put it on our Facebook page so you can read the full thing. But he's really got like 4 paragraphs basically about where he sees it going. And he says higher home loan rates will erode purchasing power and significantly diminish the demand as home buyers are experiencing confidence. And so what he's saying is as the interest rate ticks up, typically a buyer's buying power diminishes slightly because your mortgage payment is going to be higher due to the interest rate being slightly higher. Rather than having high home prices, the interest rates are going to be. So it's kind of a careful balance of like how Victor was talking about, that it is still a good time to buy. You have to hunt the deals. And even when the market transitions and the interest rates are higher, it's still a good time to buy because the prices will be lower. And we're always happy to have a more in-depth conversation on that. The next thing he starts talking about is how are they going to address forbearance? Because a lot of people have been delaying their mortgage payment, and what's going to happen when the moratoriums all end. Now, I know the rental one was extended through June, but what's going to happen
still
when
evicting,
those...
but still.
Right. Yeah. Right. There are ways to still evict, but according to the CDC, the general rule is till the end of June. But once all that ends, what's going to happen to these people, and are they going to be able to catch up? Are they going to keep their equity? What's going to happen? And so basically his final thought is that we won't really know until fourth quarter of this year of what's going to happen.
So I know this is not like a happy thought, but we have these incredibly high prices that are continuing to rise. And yes, the fact is that, the rates are going higher, but there are still buyers out there and there's lack of inventory. And that's really the story. So really, sadly enough, these foreclosures are probably going to save us from that lack of inventory.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. Truthfully, it's a cyclical process. I've been somehow involved in real estate my entire life, and it's always been, it's a cycle, and it has to happen. And a lot of people are affected negatively, and a lot of people are affected positively. And it's just, what are you on this route, right?
But the nice thing that I've read is that nobody is predicting anything
catastrophic
like 2008. Right. They're just saying it'll be a small recession, but not a huge one. So. But these are conversations to have and to understand
know what to expect, what to think about, what to understand. Yeah, and we'd love to talk about them more.
Absolutely.
So next up, when we're talking about the rising home prices, this
one was interesting to me. I even printed
California,
it out.
Right? And I have it on my
you
computer.
Crazy people. So this was a house in California that was priced well. But due to demand, which we saw the map, and they were at a negative 30% or 36%.
So not the highest, but still.
Not the highest, but still a demand. And this happens in our area.
Now, this was in Berkeley.
On this level.
Right. So Berkeley might have been one of those areas that's higher, because Berkeley has always been, just like a top place to live.
So the house was listed, had 29 offers, and sold for $1 million over asking price.
$1 million over.
So we can actually post the house.
It's actually not like that spectacular of a house in terms of like it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but it was the rare find was that it had land. So you had a backyard, and there was a little area where they could sit out. I looked into it because I always like to look to see.
Well, it does say it was a unicorn,
right? And it was overlooking, I guess, like the valley. There was no water there, but there's sort of mountainous area. I've never been to Berkeley, so I'm just talking out of my butt. But
yeah, I've never been to Berkeley.
Yes, you're looking over the city, and so the fact is that it had land, and no one else has land, so you don't have backyards, and that's again what people have been looking for in terms of moving from COVID. You're moving from the apartment lifestyle when you're in these, California, New York type places, but moving into an area where there's land, where there's a yard, where you have a little bit more room to roam and run around. So 1 million over, but that's California for you. I mean, it's a completely different world over there.
Give us a thumbs up or a like if you want us to post the house so you can take pictures and look at it too. because I was just like, it was listed at 2.3. So that's just incredible to me. 29 offers, $1 million over. And somebody just scooped it right up. So
I just have to say this because it's on here and it's a fun word to say. Have you seen the show Schitt's Creek?
Yes. And I saw the article.
The motel from the show Schitt's Creek just hit the market for 1.58 million. So let's see if it goes over $1 million just for being on the show.
It's
Schitt's
in Canada,
Creek.
though. All right. Before we get kicked off the air.
Yeah. We're not getting kicked
I
off.
know.
This is our show. All right. Elio, what's going
Take us
on?
to break.
Let's go. We got to take a break.
Yeah.
He's kicking us off now.
Yep. We're fired now.
We'll see you in
Welcome
a
to the
few.
beautiful community of Arbor Greens. Located in Jonesville near the Tioga Town Center, Arbor Greens is a peaceful, planned community just outside of Gainesville. The development comprises over 200 single-family homes anchored by a spacious clubhouse, swimming pool, and tree-lined walking trails. The homes in Arbor Greens combine affordability, comfort, and luxury. Arbor Greens has amazing dining and shopping options in the neighboring Tioga Town Center, along with the Farmers Market in the Hale Village Center. The University of Florida and Shands Hospital are both conveniently located close enough for your daily commute. Arbor Greens is zoned for Meadowbrook Elementary School, Kanapahall Middle School, and Buchholz High School, all of which rank well and are highly regarded in Alachua County, one of the best school districts in Florida. Please visit buysellrebell.com to search for your new home in Arbor Greens.
Hello, welcome back. Thanks for hanging with us. Now we're on to the second part of our show when we're going to ask the number one question. Is it the right time to sell?
Always. It's always the right time to sell.
It's always the right time to sell. I love this question. It's really funny. This is a great little, I don't know, what do you call this? Infograph, right?
Yeah.
From Florida
This is
Realtors?
from Florida Realtors,
Yeah, and
yep.
we talked about it last week, but I think they have cute infographics. So love this. We have it on our website or on our Facebook page. But I love it. It's the time-old tale, the question that we always see, no matter what the market is. Is it the right time to sell? Yes, it is. And why? What did we just talk about? You can get $1 million over your listing price. Just kidding.
We're not guaranteeing that. Not guaranteeing that. But no, it is a great time to sell. Well, I always am. I'm a glasses half full type of person. So
Yes, you are.
I know it's
great.
almost an annoying part of me, but
No,
I
love it.
always see the positive in it. But yeah, it's a great time to sell. And yes, buying might be hard right now, but the right thing will come along at the right time or the right opportunity. So this is from the state of Florida. They're stating that this was as of December when they did their numbers.
But this is still the same. If you look at numbers,
if not lower,
less, right? 1.8 month supply. It's been under two months
That means
since the beginning of the year.
If nothing else came on the market,
We'd only have,
in less than 2 months, we would be 100% out of inventory in the state of Florida.
and usually this is the time when people are getting their houses on the market and their condos, their properties on the market to sell because it's a great sales season. But today was the first day in the entire year that we saw more listings than pendants or closed.
planned it that
but
way.
they're right. It's only 5 days in the month, and we're only looking at monthly. If we were to look at the whole entire quarter,
Well, we are coming to the end of the quarter, so
yes,
we can do that.
we can look at that again. But we would still see that the pending and the closed are far outweigh the active, and so that's why currently it's the right time to sell. And if you're worried about putting your house on the market and selling it and not finding a place to buy, please talk to us because there's always skin a cat. We can find out a way to get you a home. We haven't had any problems yet, knock on wood, but you're going to find something. So don't panic. Call us. We'll help you out. You have anything?
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, so next up is kind of a hot topic if you're selling and you have an unclosed permit.
And the
Otherwise, most
reason
people
why
don't think
we're
about it.
talking about this is because it is like a current actual thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it happens when in markets or times when trades are very busy, which is obviously right now. There's a demand. There's not enough skilled workers. People
not enough
get
workers.
right. They get hung up and they forget to do things. But we've had this happen a couple of times.
Yes, and it's always in the same neighborhood.
And I've had sellers nervous when they're filling in their property disclosures, saying, "Oh my gosh, have I done?" Did I get a permit for everything? So the first step to me is that if you're doing something home renovation and you're worried about permitting, check with the municipality that you live in, because there's the city of Gainesville, then there's Alachua County, then there's the city of High Springs, and then there's city of Newberry, city of Alachua, city of Micanopy, and then there's Alachua County.
Municipalities.
Right. So all the little small areas of, Hawthorne, all these areas in Alachua County, and then Alachua County as a whole. So if you live in the county, you're going to follow the county's codes. If you live in a different city, you're going to follow that city's. And different ones have different things that they want you to do. So that's the first step. The second step is if you're hiring a professional to do something like a pool, an HVAC, a water heater, or something on those lines, make sure in your paperwork that it states they will open and close the permits.
And you have to follow up to see if they close it.
Yes, get
that is where the
documentation.
issue has come. And it can happen with the best contractors out there, the top pool company, the number one pool company you've ever heard of in Gainesville, or Alachua County. It can happen with them as well. So it really is up to you to
even though you've hired a professional, you still have to trust
see it
but verify.
So often.
And
there
get
are times,
a copy of it when it's closed.
And there are times where, we're dealing with one 20 years ago. The pool was never permitted, and it wasn't.
Well, it was opened, and the reason it was flagged was because it was not closed.
But the thing is that the current owners have only lived there for 5 years. So when they purchased, it wasn't flagged. So when you're buying a property, I would probably say go ahead and make sure that all the open permits are closed, so you don't have to deal with this, because now it's money out of their pocket. Now, we didn't represent them as buyers when they purchased. We're representing as sellers. But it doesn't hurt to really look into that and see what's open still, so that, you could make sure it's closed out, because the current buyers, they're getting this closed out, so they don't have to change. And the new rules for pools are very different from 20 years ago. Now, I did have to call and confirm a few things, so it's not as bad as we thought. But there are alarms now that you have to put inside the pools, not even on the doors, or those kiddie fences. Right. Now, I did find out that, and this, just to share it, is that if you have a screen, the screen lanai over the pool, as long as it is attached to the house, you don't have to have a fence around the perimeter. But if it is not attached to the house, that enclosed screen, then you have to put a fence around the perimeter of the pool or of your house, on your lot lines. So it's a lot of money. It can be a lot of money for people. Luckily, the little alarms for the pool, there's a separate one for the pool and a separate one for the spa. And luckily, they're not that expensive. So it ends up not costing an arm and a leg. But we've been in situations where it has.
We've had it. And we actually had a very detailed customer years ago, lived in Planters Grove. They actually had the documentation showing that the permit should have been closed out. The inspection was done. It just never got turned in. But thankfully, we had that, and we were able to get a permit fairly easy. I've had issues where an old re-roof was done, and it was never permitted. But then a new roof was put on. So while that permit was still open, the next one was opened and closed correctly. So there are so many scenarios. I will say, one thing that's really great about our area, speaking of Alachua County and all the municipalities in it, is that everybody is really good and willing to work with them. I have not had experience in St. John's or Hillsborough. Yes, I agree. It's when it comes to water. Yes, it is worth it
to save life. 20 years ago, we didn't have these rules for pools, but
20 years ago, we were riding down playground slides that were as hot as lava and rusty, and just a different breed back then. Actually, that was probably more like 35 or 40 years ago, but
80s.
I know, 80s and 90s. I look at the stuff that I used to play on as a kid, and I was at my parents' over Easter, actually. I'm going to use them as an example. And they have a rickety, rusty place that our kids were all playing on, and I'm like, I can't believe that they use this. How unsafe. Somebody's going to get tetanus. But
I think it really was insurance. That came in. Obviously, I remember having a slide and, a diving board, and gone are those.
Trampolines.
I can tell you when my parents, again, back in the 80s, moved into University Acres, there was a tree house. It was the coolest thing, but it was up 2 pine trees. And it was like, I mean, it was probably 5 stories up, and you had to climb up the tree ladder to get into it. And it was amazing, but it was really scary. And my stepfather, who is like insurance man, he was not insurance, he was a doctor, physician, but he is a physician, but he was like, we're taking that down. And we tore it down within the first year. And I remember so mad because it was the most awesome thing. But, you know, it was because he's like, I'm not
we
having
had a
a friend
in the yard, and you can't
climb
even
up there with the
anymore.
insurance. No, you can't. Well, you can, but you have to have those, I don't know, fencing
we were old
things
school.
around it.
How are you going to jump off of it into the pool if you've got this apparatus
Insurance is a
around
pain
it?
in the neck, but it has saved a lot of people and helped save lives. So
and we appreciate you for that, but we do remember the good old days.
Back to something. Here we go. Yep, Jackie. Thank goodness there were no camera phones back then. But Jackie did say something about earlier when we were talking about, and I want to bring it back, Jackie. That was a really great comment. We should have you on here. Jackie's been with us for a couple years, but real estate for 18 years down in Miami, has a lot of knowledge and experience, and she's just a really hard worker on our team. But backup offers. That's a great way to win, you know, a house that you really love. And we have actually been seeing, probably about 3 years ago, I started noticing a lot of realtors doing backup offers. And, you know, you kind of eye roll sometimes at things, but you gotta.
She just closed a deal that was a backup offer.
Yeah,
you have in the process.
This is a way, because there's a lot of people, especially the ones who are putting offers on immediately for really high to win it. Sometimes they haven't even seen the property, or they're just, you know, trying to get the house because they've lost a lot of others, and then they realize, oh, there's other things I have to do to this house. So your backup offer, it still has to be strong. The seller still has to accept it. You know, to be a backup offer, it's a signed backup offer, but you're the first in line. And so, you know, if that one falls apart, which happens often, then, you know, you are the one who they go to. And that's when all of your time starts. So you don't have to get the inspection and the appraisal ahead of time. You have to get, you know, you can get it once the first offer is removed and you become the main offer. So no, thank you, Jackie, for bringing that up, because that is a great way that people are winning homes when they don't think they're going to. So excellent. We appreciate that. And we have one more really fun real estate story before we head out.
Print it. But so in South Carolina,
They always have a snake story, by the way.
Oh, yeah. You got to have a snake story if you're Kristen and Rebecca. This was not ours, but it happens in Florida all the time. So there was a 2-foot long snake found in the electrical.
I'm sure they all thought it was like a rattlesnake or something.
Oh my gosh. Well, I watched the video of the dude pulling it out, and it was, I know they said it was only 2 foot, but that thing looked like an anaconda as he was pulling it out. I was
Rebecca.
just like, I'm like, oh my gosh, is it ever going to get all off?
Do you remember when we lived in High Springs? And so both of us lived in Cinnamon Hills. And Clay Electric serviced. I know they still service where you live now.
This is before we moved in there, and it
got into like the electrical.
It shut down the power grid.
Yes, the power grid for all of Clay.
It was like a 7-foot rattlesnake. Oh
no,
my
it was
gosh.
not a rattlesnake. It was a black racer.
Oh,
they all just make it
they
sound
all
like
look
it's
like rattlesnakes to me. I don't care. It could be purple. I'm like, that's a rattlesnake right there. I see it. It's gonna kill me.
Snakes on the wall. Yes.
So, so when you hear something,
snakes
slithering
are
around,
always somehow involved in real estate, because remember there was that house. I don't remember where it was, but it was built on like the
den
of the garter snakes,
Ugh.
and there were hundreds and thousands of snakes, and they had to foreclose on that house.
Yeah,
and probably tear it down because
the musk from it was just attracting.
It's not only that, you have thousands of snakes in your house all the time. Even if you're not afraid, it's probably a pain in the neck.
Yeah, so if you're a parcel mouth and you want to get into real estate, give us a call. If you don't know what a parcel mouth is, then I'm sorry that you didn't grow up with Harry Potter. So let's see.
I don't know.
A sports talk segment?
Gonzaga.
What's NCAA? Is that basketball or baseball?
I'm going with Gonzaga.
I don't know what Gonzaga is.
Is the game tonight, Susan? I don't even know, but Gonzaga and I think Baylor. I don't know. It's for the championship.
Is this for college or for adults?
It's for college.
Okay.
This is why we don't talk sports, by the way.
I think it's baseball season also, so go baseball, people.
So we do, well, we're about to end, but thank you for joining us. We love that you're here, but we do want to celebrate our top producers of March of this year. Jackie, as we talked about her earlier, thanks for hanging on here, Jackie, and watching. Meg Elkins, she's been around for a while, and Sky Mays.
Congratulations, ladies.
Congratulations to all three of you. We're really proud of you, and thank you. All right. Well, get ready for the ending.
I'm still thinking about sports. Sorry.
Star Wars, that's all.
I love it. So if you have a property that you're sick of managing or that you don't want to live in any longer, but you don't want to sell it in this hot market, feel free to call K&R Property Management, where they invest in your investment. You can email them at rent@knrpm.com, or if I knew the phone number of the phone I carry around all day, I could tell you it, but I'll post it in the comments. Sorry.
Hot messes. I love it. Hey, and if you are keeping your house, living in it, or buying a house that needs a little bit of remodeling or just simple repairs or some maintenance, give JMP Florida Handyman Services a call. We have their email right there, and the easiest number for me to say out loud is the 352-519-8476. That's Johan. He has a lot of experience in this and can do any of these things for your home, your upcoming home, your current home, or your rentals. Give him a call.
Excellent work, too. If you're thinking about getting into real estate, but you're not sure where to start, or if you're unhappy with where you're at currently in real estate,
or you're a partial mouth,
we want to talk to you. You can email us at join@buysellrebell.com.
And if you can't tell, we love to be social. So join us on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. We've got some fun TikToks. Or search us. Watch our podcast on our page on YouTube.
We actually talk about a lot more.
Rabell Realty Group. Yes, we do.
On YouTube, because you've got community information on what's happening in Gainesville, cool places to hang out. Oh, shoot, I forgot to talk about the new food park. We'll talk about that next week. Josh, write it down so we don't forget.
Well, we didn't have time anyway, so there's our YouTube. Like it, subscribe, follow us. We'd love that. All right. Last one up.
Last one. The best for last.
The Fiesta Media full podcast production. If you want your own podcast, you can contact them at 352-327-5089. But again, you have to visit ours first before you can be on
to make sure you like it. And then we hold you down in the back and get your sales pitch on.
Hey, we love you for being here. Thank you so much.
Happy Monday.
Yay. See you next week.
I just wanted to throw that out.
I loved it. That was great.